Hello Tim, hello Jim from James.
Hiya.
How you doing?
Jim, you started the band in the early 80s. What do you remember about the landscape then in the music industry?
Well, it was just kind of post-punk. So everything had kind of been thrown up in the air really musically, and it was kind of starting from scratch. And I think when I first got into music, it was new wave, I suppose it was called back then. So it was bands like Joy Division and The Fall, and it was, I don't know, Scritti Politti and Perubu and the Pop Group and Gang of Four, and it was kind of the beginnings of a new type of music that came out of punk. But there's still very much the punk attitude. And it was easy to get gigs back then. Like every pub put bands on, basically. And you didn't really need any talent or ability to get a show, so you could easily go and just march up and get a gig. And that's kind of what we did in the early days. We'd just play anywhere, and we weren't very good, but we'd just play anywhere. And I think there was a lot of music and a lot of bands. I think it was a time when there was, again, high unemployment, so it kind of drives people into finding something else to do with the spare time, And that's what Manchester was. Manchester created a huge number of bands, and I think also not just the kind of unemployment, but also you were left alone a lot then. It's different nowadays as a band. I think the spotlight finds people a lot quicker. But back then, if you didn't seek the industry didn't seek you. Unless you went to London and played a pub in Camden, you weren't going to get hassled by people in suits. So you left to your own devices. Basically leave your own, which you need when you start in a band. You need to work out how to play your instruments, how to write songs, the relationships between everybody. And you need that bolted down as much as you can before you go into the industry, before the pressure that's going to be applied. And that's difficult nowadays, because I don't think you can keep your head down. I think whether you like it or not, people realise what's happening, and that must be hard.
And retrospectively, that time period was a great period of music. Those bands he mentioned, they weren't looking for fame. They were doing it for the love of doing it. And we came from that. We weren't looking for success. Success to us was playing a pub, 30, 40 people and having a great time. And then it escalated. But it took us 7 years, and we had that length of time, as Jim said, to develop our relationships, to learn how to make music. And the way we make music is really different to 90-odd% of bands. We improvise every song between us. And after 7 years, we were able to improvise effortlessly. We auditioned for a new drummer after 7 years, and we'd bring drummers in, and we'd make up a song. And they would say, at the end of it, they'd say, "Oh, what's that one called?" And we'd say, "We just made it up." And they'd go, "Fuck off, you're trying to intimidate me." And we weren't. We just, that's how we got that good at improvising songs that they sounded like songs. And recently, someone's doing a documentary on us, and they came to one of our writing sessions, and he was going, "So that thing you just played, you've never played that before?" And we go, "No, we never played that before. I mean, you told me this, but I can't believe it. It sounds like a song." And it's like, yeah, that's how we improvise. I mean, they go on long time. We might improvise a song for 50 minutes, right? Yeah. But there's a song there. Yeah. And that came from those 7 years, really, of 5 days a week, rehearsing, learning, kind of a telepathic communication of...
I think we kind of didn't know there was another option, did we?
No.
We didn't really understand that there was a normal way of doing it, which is to basically somebody at home to beaver away, coming up with a chord progression and a melody, and then bringing it in and trying to persuade everybody else to play it. And the arguing and the talking, we didn't talk very much, did we? We'd get in a room and play for 6 hours in the drummer's kitchen and just play and 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 play. And because we were developing, we knew something was changing and shifting, and we were getting better. But it makes you listen. That's really important, to be able to listen to what's going on in the room, what's happening, and respond. And you end up with collisions. It's not all about an intellectual, "Oh, I'll put this chord after that chord." It's just stuff happens that you've got no real control over.
We'd record it all on a cassette machine, so the sound was terrible, because it'd be, distorted, loud band recorded on a cassette. But we'd try and play something a certain way, and someone would mess up, but the mess up was more interesting than if we managed to succeed. So we go, that error's really good. So some of our early songs, the structure's based on error more than, because we were not very good musicians, all of us. Unfortunately, as we got better, those errors became less, which is a problem. So then you have to kind of almost introduce things that mess you up a bit, because that keeps the freshness.
And you push yourself in the improvisations, you know, like what happened to some of the, as Tim said, the improvisations go on for a long time. They can go on for over an hour. Some are relatively short, maybe 10, 15 minutes, but some will go on for over an hour. And you go on these mad journeys, like you don't sit in the same bit for an hour. There's tons of change. It goes up, down, it stops, it's just weird things happen. And very little talk in between. As occasionally someone will go, oh, can we just do that bit again? But very little. It's more you just listening and just jumping in and trying to follow. And with varying degrees of success, sometimes it's a bit car crashy. But again, sometimes those bits are brilliant. They're just things that you wouldn't have come up with. But it's such a good, fun thing to do. We love it. As a process, it's brilliant. So regardless of it being a stepping stone to ending up with a song, which is the whole start of everything, you know, gigs and selling records and traveling the world, and it's in its own right, it's such a joy.
It might be our favourite part.
Yeah,
in,
so
in a way, because it's private and it's meditative, as Jim said. The best of it is you're almost in a trance, and you don't know who did the chord change, but we've all gone that way, and now we've all gone this way, and you're listening so attentively that it puts you in a meditative trance state.
Jim, what do you remember about meeting Tim for the very first time?
Wow. I know the story rather than to do the memory. I don't know, really, a long while ago. I remember it was Paul and myself used to sneak a lot into the Manchester Students' Union bar. Well, not sneaking, you would actually physically sneak in occasionally, because if somebody left a window open, you could get in, or you'd get students to sign you in, basically. And occasionally, well, if you waited long enough, some kind soul would sign you in and you could go down to the students' bar, because the music was really good and the booze was really cheap. And talk about booze being cheap, we were in there one night with Gavin, the drummer, and we didn't have, whatever money we'd had, we'd bought on cooking lager or whatever, and it had gone. So we were, for better want of a term, stealing people's drinks. So as there was a table of drinks and people were off dancing and everything, you could kind of pick up a glass and wander off with it. And we did it to Tim, we stole Tim's drink. So Tim kind of, obviously, as you would do, once you'd been kind of rumbled up that, kind of challenged us. And it was friendly after that, wasn't it? I think it was friendly. But
there were more of them than me.
There's more of them, there's three of us. Yeah, there's three of us.
They were like 16. And and I remember they all stood up in unison when I said, hey, you've got my drink. And it was like, yeah, well, I think maybe that's a battle not worth fighting.
Yeah, which was, and I mean, that Manchester University played a big part in it, really, funnily enough. It wasn't just sneaking in the Students' Union bar. We used to sneak into the venue upstairs as well. As a way you could get into the actual venue to watch bands playing. We'd go and watch anybody and everybody. Again, you'd get signed in and you go into the bar upstairs, the upstairs bar when there was a night, when there was a gig on, and there's like a little corridor that joined the bar to the venue. And the doors were always locked. You couldn't get in through the doors, obviously. But if you walked in this bit and closed the doors behind you, you could open the window, climb out onto the window ledge, walk along, they shouldn't be doing this because it's a glass roof down here, walk along the windowsill, along by the side of the venue, and these windows were always open because the gig was so ridiculously hot. So you'd climb in the window and the curtains were always closed, and you'd drop down behind the curtain and then wait for a little bit and then like just have a peer around and like a sneak into the crowd. And we saw every man and his dog that was playing through that. It was part and parcel of our musical kind of apprenticeship, really. It was just, we'd go and see anybody and everybody that was playing there. So weird, mad mixture of music. We was all just absorbing it, just taking it all in. And we would have never been able to afford it otherwise. There's no way we would have done.
Tim, was it always your ambition to be the lead singer in a band?
No. I was at Manchester studying acting. I'd been at a very repressed Victorian boys' boarding school, and it was like, well, what are you going to do at university? I'd not done any acting, but it felt like it could be fun, and it felt like, well, there'll be some beautiful women studying acting. And I think it was like an antidote to being in a repressed boys' boarding school. So I chose that, lied my way in, because you're meant to have done all these different plays, and when I got there, They made you write out the things you'd been in. I hadn't been in anything. So I remembered plays I'd seen and pretended I'd been in them and wrote. I figured if you could lie your way into acting school, you were a good enough actor to be in acting school. But I think I'd had an experience at 16. Music was really important to me, where I'd heard a Patti Smith song about a boy losing his father on the night when I thought my father was going to die. And it so touched me. It was a 9-minute improvisation called Birdland off the album Horses. And it just devastated me. And I think somewhere inside of me at that point, I went, oh, I'd like to do that. I'd like to reach out to people in their hour of need and hold their hand with something that strong. And then a few weeks later, I'd seen Iggy Pop at 16. And that was an experience that you don't forget. Especially at that age, he was like beautiful, Nureyev on acid. You know, completely damaged goods, but beautiful for that. And I think the combination of the two was like, well, live performance is where you see who's authentic, and you can write a song that can touch people and move them and connect with their life in such a deep way. So I think those things have been going along in my unconscious. I couldn't sing. I hadn't sang since I was 13. They, first of all, had me dancing. They saw me dancing that night in the cellar bar and asked me to dance. Then they, backing vocals, shake a tambourine. And then within about 4 months, they'd fired their singer and said, you're singing now, and you're writing the lyrics. And I was like, okay. And so it's an accident, really, but a destined accident.
Yeah. I mean, talk about sliding doors. I mean, the chance of me meeting Tim that night in the bar was ridiculous, you know, and what's happened to my life as a consequence. I mean, the whole of my adult life has been this. You know, what a mad thing.
Like 40,
I know, but
3-4 years.
yeah, I mean, it's just mad. I mean, and I liked being on stage, but I wasn't totally convinced I wanted to be a musician or go down that path. I was terrified by being on stage, but it attracted me for some mad reason.
Yeah.
I was absolutely horrified, but wanted to do it again. I don't know why it was, a weird masochistic streak in it, but then we just took off. The thing is, we just found something that gelled in a weird, kind of clunky, odd, strange way, and it just kind of coalesced, didn't it, in a kind of odd, spiky way. And things ticked forward.
I mean, I didn't like my voice for 6 years, at least. Like, really go, okay, it's quite good after 6 years. But, and so we were, my memory of it, we had breakthrough gigs where we'd enjoy a few songs, because the rest of it would be like, bloody hell, this is awful. And then we had, one of the breakthrough gigs was that night. We'd named ourselves James for the first time, and the promoter. Do you want this detail?
Yes.
You sure?
Yes.
Because we're not, okay. We named ourselves James for the first time, and the promoter put "not a poet" on the poster. And I remember saying to Paul, wouldn't it be funny if I came on and read a poem and the audience went, oh, hell. So, we've come to see a poet, we thought it was the band. And Paul went, great idea, write a poem by next Saturday. And this was like Monday. Learn it, you know. So I wrote a poem and learnt it. And we had this thing where I said, okay, I'll go out, I'll stand at the mic, turn the lights down, and then I'll start doing the poem, and then you guys come and rescue me, you know, because it's going to be embarrassing. And I went and stood at the microphone. There's only 40 people in the pub, but it was a big deal to us. And they forgot to turn the light down. So I just stand looking at them, and eventually I stare the audience into silence, not realizing, and I suddenly realize the lights aren't going to turn down. So I start the poem, and I half sung it, half spoke it, and it goes down to a whisper, and they burst into applause. And I remember you guys came on, and Paul was going, what the hell just happened? And we went, don't know, but let's play. Yeah. And we played with a different fire, because we'd taken a risk that had come off. And after that, we talked about it afterwards, and we went, right, we're going to do that every gig. We're going to take some mad risk. So the next gig was supporting New Order, our biggest gig ever at the Brixton Academy. And Jim, who'd never played acoustic guitar in his life, had to go on and play acoustic guitar with Paul and improvise an instrumental. That's how we started that gig.
Because we loved the idea that no one knew what James was or who James was. So this idea that you go, okay, it's these two guys playing acoustic guitars, and then the rest of everybody else kind of filtering, and it was having fun. You could have fun, you know.
How high risk is it you doing that crowd surfing, Tim?
I don't know. I'm doing it, so I don't know. I mean, I choose my moments. I haven't done it. I did it at Warrington. I didn't do it the last few gigs. I look in the audience and see if they've got the phones down. If they've all got the phones up, I'm not going, because they'll catch me one-handed, and that's not safe. And if they're not all crammed together, it's hard, because then there might be gaps, and then you fall. I had a neck injury for a year last year, so I mean, I guess it's high risk, but they look after me. And if I prime them well enough beforehand, then they really look after me.
Can you be insured to crowd surf?
I'm the only person in Britain insured to crowd surf. Our insurance company were going to withdraw it about 5 years ago. And they talked to me on the phone, and they come to the gigs. And they went, I guess it's not really crowd surfing, it's more like they pass you around. Okay, we'll keep the insurance. I'm the only person in the country.
Do you think, Tim, that the love of James is greater than ever? You had a number one album in 2024 with Yummy. Do you think, is this a renaissance?
Yeah. You know, we noticed when we came back in 2006, the audience was full of people our age. It's very depressing. And now it's full of mixed age range.
Yeah.
And they've got bigger and bigger. I mean, we're playing the biggest venues we've ever played. We're having the best time I think we've ever had. And we felt our music had longevity. We were arrogant enough to believe that. But it's beautiful having it shown to us in this way. It's really the biggest honor to feel like, you know, you saw Leonard Cohen. Leonard Cohen was written off in the early 90s as an old hippie. We did a song for a tribute album to him, because his management got in touch and said, please, Leonard's having a hard time, you're big fans of his. And you know, and then you saw what happened at the end, where suddenly people turned around and went, oh my God, this is amazing. And you can see it with certain acts that they have a longevity, Nick Cave, where suddenly people really go, oh heck. And so to be in that kind of, I'm not comparing us to Nick Cave and Leonard Cohen, but to be in that feeling of like, oh, people are reappreciating us, is a really beautiful moment for us.
How does being on stage make you feel, Tim?
Alive, natural. It feels like it's, you know, I'm terrified beforehand. The minute I'm on stage, it's gone. It's like, oh, here we are. And it just feels like some different character come. I don't know.
I suppose you're looking for magic, aren't you? You're looking for something really special that you've never done before. So you're not looking to recapture a highlight. If you do, you're not going to do it. That's why we need to change the set as well, because as soon as we get good at something, it just then slightly goes downhill from there, doesn't it? You've got to rest. If you peak a song, you've got to put it to one side at that point, because the next one will be trying too hard, trying to be the thing it was yesterday. So it's much better to take songs up there that are a little bit sketchy, maybe you've not played for a while, and you're looking for some magic. You're looking to put something in that creates something that makes you go, whoa. And that, if you do that, as Tim was saying, that spontaneity, they realise, they know that, and they get elevated, and their energy elevates, and you get that back. So there's this kind of two-way thing going on, and it's just such a buzz. It really is. It's the greatest natural high. You just, And what an achievement. And it feels like you're part of something in James when you're playing. It's like you're almost like it's part of a machine. The song's not like, oh, we just play and then somebody improvises. We all improvise. The song improvises. It shifts and moves and looks for a door to jump into. And the song goes. It's just the best.
That's been in the now. And there's nothing more potent than the now. When people are watching a band to relive some memory in the 90s, that's not been in the now. It's lovely, it's great, but it's not being present, and it's the present where everything happens. We've been meditating for 44 years. That's what our practice is. Our practice is meditation, is you try and get in the now, outside the mind, outside time and space. And we've been doing it for 44 years. We were closet meditators for the first 30 years because we knew it wasn't rock and roll and we'd be torn apart for it. But that's basically what we've been doing, and that is in James, in that sense. How to get in the now.
Yeah. Does it feel good to be back here at the Peace Hall, Jim?
Oh, amazing. What a venue. It's the best venue. It's fantastic. I played here a good number of times now. It's wonderful. It's a beautiful building, but it sounds great too. And the crowd right on top of you. It feels like everybody's really close. So like a lot of people, but everyone's really close. So yeah, really looking forward to it. Loved last night. Really looking forward to it.
One of the best venues.
It is.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tim. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you.